What does OPNet look like, the team?
We are a team of around 20 people. We have a hacker house in Abu Dhabi that we have about half the team lives and works out of. So that's sort of our office. It's our base of operations. We live together. We work together. It's very much startup life.
What do you mean live together?
Yeah. Like literally in the same building?
We have a villa here in Abu Dhabi. It's 9 bedrooms, and we have 9 people here, and we all work on OpNet every single day.
That's conviction.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, it's important. I think that if you're doing something that you believe in, then you have to believe in it all the way, and you have to go all the way with it. I'm one of the founders. To really sum up what we've made it's a smart contract protocol for Bitcoin Layer 1.
In a space full of noise, speculation, and short-term hype,
he chose conviction.
In very short, we built a protocol that essentially changes how you can use Bitcoin to give it the type of functionality that Ethereum has.
a trader who went deep into narratives.
An early believer in Bitcoin ordinals to rebuild from zero. Built natively on Bitcoin.
This is Chad. This is OPNet. This is Bitcoin evolving.
Essentially, our protocol basically plugs into Bitcoin and gives Bitcoin native smart contract functionality at the base layer. Everything you can do on Ethereum becomes possible on Bitcoin with our protocol. When it came to trading on Bitcoin, we were really, really early to Bitcoin ordinals. Bitcoin is really hard to build on. It's the only way that we're gonna see that market even start to evolve. It starts with fully natively to Bitcoin layer 1. You don't have to bridge your assets or leave Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form. All you're doing is making Bitcoin transactions. If we're thinking about a place to have impact on the future, the only place, in my opinion, to do that is on Bitcoin. If you're able to make something that kind of changes the paradigm of whatever industry you're in, the success of it will follow.
I'm going to step on something very dangerous here, but the Kendrick Lamars of the industry, or are you a Drake fan?
Even at that really high level, there are a few like true artists who are at that super, super high level. You definitely named a couple of them, your Taylor Swifts or whatever. Once you've made it, right, your goal is to continue your success or maintain your success more than it is to create something amazing.
First of all, are you trying to tell us that you're a Taylor Swift fan? Is that what you're saying? Because you said Taylor Swift of the industry. I was giving you Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator. But you said Taylor Swift.
I think that she has a really good track record and has done a really good job of like commercializing while also staying fairly true
Building
to
a fire, actually. Hi everyone, this is your hopefully favorite podcast host, Catherine Ross, and today I am joined by Tal, because I don't know, even maybe he doesn't trust me to do this on my own, or he just sees me having so much fun, so he wants some of it. Tal is the co-founder.
I want some of it.
Sure. Yeah, I trust you. So he's the co-founder of the Buildooor. And today we're joined by, all right, let me pronounce that correctly. So someone who goes by name Chad Master, but in reality, Samuel Moshe Pat. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right. So, or Chad Master, this is your Twitter name. Is that correct? That's what you told us. This is your Twitter name, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's my name in the community. Sort of my crypto name, I guess, is it's my pseudonym.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, before we dive into that, I want you to talk a little bit about OPNet. The thing is that imagine that people who are listening or watching to us, they don't know what it is. How would you describe that? To what is it that you guys do, and what is your role specifically?
Yeah, so I'm one of the founders, and to really sum up what we've made it's a smart contract protocol for Bitcoin layer 1. So in very short, we built a protocol that essentially changes how you can use Bitcoin to give it the type of functionality that Ethereum has. I could go more technical into the explanation, but essentially our protocol basically plugs into Bitcoin and gives Bitcoin native smart contract functionality at the base layer. So basically everything you can do on Ethereum becomes possible on Bitcoin with our protocol.
Mm. And thank you for that take. I know that Tal has follow-ups, but I'd love to on what it takes to build something close to related to on top of Bitcoin-ish, smart contract-ish, and stuff like that. But before we move into that, going back to your um, name, right? So
Yeah.
Chad Master. First of all, why? Why Chad Master?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a nickname that my friends gave me. So my background is in trading, so I trade actively on chain. I still do, much less now, but I was full time trading on chain, DeFi, um, pretty much anything that's on chain. So DeFi, meme coins, NFTs, you name it, on chain perps, wherever there's a chance to make money on chain. Historically, that's where I've been. So because of that, within my trading group, especially myself, one of the things that drew me in about on-chain trading specifically is this community aspect. And I really love to get deep into communities and narratives that I'm following. And so because I'm not interested, or I hadn't been interested in becoming like a KOL who's, building up a big Twitter persona and trading a bunch of different things and people are following all my trades and stuff. I historically have just created if I'm joining a new community or I'm entering a new narrative that I'm personally trading, I want to be really attached to the community. And especially when you're trading, alpha is always on Twitter. So I would always just make a new sort of persona, a new Anon Twitter account that is just super deep into whatever narrative I'm trading. So whether that's specific to like Ethereum meme coins, or whether that was Barachain community. We always kind of just create a new Twitter account and build it up and be very specific to the community or narrative that I'm involved in. NFT communities, similar sort of thing. So when it came to trading on Bitcoin, myself and my group were really, really early to Bitcoin ordinals. And when we were creating our personas for the Bitcoin ordinal space, it was a totally new and separate community that was emerging. And so the Chad Master name was just kind of something that came about randomly. And we started to get a little bit of a following within the Bitcoin space before we were really even trying to build anything. We were just looking to invest in emerging technology on BTC. Obviously, we were trading ordinals and early Bitcoin tokens, and we're just doing that under and tweeting and stuff about the narratives that were emerging and about the developments that were happening on Bitcoin from my Chad Master Twitter. And over time, we eventually got really deep into the experimental Bitcoin DeFi world. And we were looking, we placed a lot of bets in terms of investments, but nothing really panned out in this is 2023. And so we decided to kind of, this is a long story in of itself, but to really sum it up, we decided to kind of experiment and build our own example of what Bitcoin DeFi could look like, leveraging the ordinal technology stack. And we had a pretty decent proof of concept, but what we very quickly realized as we gained a big following and we had a really solid community is that you can't really achieve what we were really looking to achieve, which is like full true Bitcoin DeFi with the ordinal protocol, which is like an NFT based protocol. And so we kind of scrapped everything that we were doing at the time and really dove in and said, okay, here's a really big opportunity to build a protocol that is open source, that brings this sort of dream of Bitcoin DeFi to reality. And we had already built up these personas, and we hadn't really gone in with the intention of founding anything. So that's sort of where the Chad Master name emerged. And we were going to conferences and stuff already. So I already had name recognition under Chad. And so by the time we got further along in the process, when we were talking to investors and being more serious, like my name is not a secret, but it just is confusing for the community, and it would just be a weird rebrand to just like all of a sudden be using a totally different name. So Chad is my crypto name. That's the long story short.
Well, here's the thing. I have to take a bit of a step. in another direction because Tal, Tal, you look like you're about to fall asleep or you have been working. Because I forgot to mention, Tal is also a co-founder of Chainstory, and they've been very busy with their press release report that I wasn't a part of. But okay, no, it's just Tal is sitting there like this, please, please.
No, 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 no.
And he's just like,
No, no, it is. No, I'm joking. I think to me, what Catherine mentioned earlier, to me, I think building on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is what obviously I think got most people into crypto. You hear Bitcoin went up, but you see that on the TV. You think, okay, it's too late for me to buy Bitcoin. Then it crashes. Then okay, maybe that's a fake. This is how I think the average Joe got into Bitcoin, or most people
depending
probably.
on the time, I guess, depending on.
Yeah, maybe now everyone's in from Polymarket, whatever. But I think that's how most people got to that. I specifically spent a bunch of time at the Bitcoin embassy. There's a Bitcoin embassy in Israel. A bunch of time spent over there, got to get acquainted with Bitcoin. And I think one of the things I used to hear quite often was layer 2 or side chains on Bitcoin or DeFi on Bitcoin, respectfully, Chad, doesn't work. I would love to hear your take on that, because DeFi on Bitcoin is not there yet in terms of volumes compared to, I don't know, Ethereum, Solana, or many others. It is alive, but not kicking yet. My question is more of, how do you feel about that? How does that look like in terms of, because DeFi and Bitcoin is a conversation people are having or used to have for a while with Rootstock, with Stacks. Probably should remember more names, but I feel like it's what's preventing it from being more mainstream? Is it on
Sexy.
what maybe, or maybe is the Bitcoin community different from Solana's community, or I don't know. I feel like it's somewhere in between. I was wondering, what do you think about that part? What's stopping Bitcoin, DeFi and Bitcoin?
That's a very multi-layered question with multi-layer answers. So let me kind of go way back in time.
If I may, sorry, if I may, I would love to hear that perspective as a founder. Is that something you think surpassed or stalled some of your some of the OPNet's actions as a whole?
Yeah. Again, a really good question. I'll go way back in time, right? I think that if you go and look at the beginning of Ethereum, for example, right? Vitalik's first attempt to create Ethereum was actually to push it to Bitcoin and to enable smart contract functionality on Bitcoin. And he was trying to, push a change to BTC. And the Bitcoin community generally rejected that at the time. And if we just even go back even further into Bitcoin's history, all the way back to the white paper, for example, right? The original use case of Bitcoin is supposed to be peer-to-peer electronic cash, right? It's supposed to be this payment system that, over time will destroy fiat currency and compete with the SWIFT system and sort of offer a decentralized alternative to money, which is like a super anti-establishment cypherpunk sort of route to build something on top of. And I really always related to that. And I have a really strong belief in that as sort of the heart and soul of Bitcoin. As we kind of move forward over time, like fast forward, let's just say 5 to 10 years ish, there was a lot of attempts to do a variety of things. For example, you had OmniLayer, which is where Tether was first issued, which was like the first Bitcoin meta protocol, where you were putting data onto Bitcoin that basically said, hey, I have Tether, I transfer it to this person, and then they had the OmniLayer sequencer or indexer that was just reading this activity on BTC. That's where Tether was first created. So the first stablecoin was created technically on Bitcoin using this sort of meta protocol design. Fast forward a little bit, obviously you have Vitalik and Ethereum, all of the really smart minds behind that were kind of trying to do this on Bitcoin as well. But at the time, the concept of smart contracts and DeFi itself was not proven whatsoever, right? You didn't have any product market fit applications. You didn't have any good example of whether this is something that is even a usable thing in the wider world. At the time, the entire conversation around Bitcoin is around payments. How do we adopt Bitcoin into as many merchants as possible? How are we going to scale Bitcoin? You had the block size wars at the time. The focus around Bitcoin was completely away from programmability or building applications leveraging blockchain technology. So then Ethereum launches, and you have the first sort of examples of what you can do with smart contracts. You have the DAO, you have early NFTs, you have early DeFi applications. It wasn't really until 2020 where DeFi summer happened, and now you have this Cambrian explosion of DeFi applications that launch on Ethereum. You have Uniswap, you have Aave, you have SushiSwap, you have MakerDAO, you have the increase of TVL and use case for stablecoins. You have all of a sudden a ton of non-Bitcoin related activity that is providing really excellent use cases for crypto that isn't, hey, this is going to replace the dollar. Essentially mimicking traditional financial tools and decentralizing them and opening them up for anyone to use in a totally permissionless way. So that is kind of up to 2020. At the time, Bitcoin is still kind of evolving a little bit. You have the advent of this sort of store of value narrative starts to pop up around this time regarding Bitcoin. And at the same time, they're trying to push a change to Bitcoin called the Taproot upgrade that allows for the Lightning Network, which is sort of the scaling solution for Bitcoin as payments to be created. So around this time, when Ethereum's having this huge DeFi explosion, you still have the Bitcoin world more focused on how are we going to use Bitcoin as payments? How are we going to create this side system for Bitcoin called the Lightning Network that is going to, take Bitcoin as payments on the global level, like scale it to infinity. Moving even forward to like 2022, right? The whole market crashes. You have a bunch of really killer apps that emerged from this DeFi explosion. The ones I named generally were the ones that remained and had lasting success, and a lot of the other stuff was experimental and didn't particularly last. But you have a bunch of really great use cases for smart contract technology. At the same time, Bitcoin as payments, the Lightning Network launches, and it doesn't gain a ton of adoption. At the same time as that, Bitcoin's narrative kind of shifts entirely towards this, it's this store of value. It's digital gold. It's a hedge against the infinite printing of fiat currency. But the problem is that no one's actually using Bitcoin. So in a lot of ways, it strengthens Bitcoin in terms of its value because there's a ton of money that is locked up on Bitcoin. People buy Bitcoin, they hold Bitcoin, and they don't use it because it's going to go to $1 billion, right? It's going to go to 1 million. And at the same time, Ethereum has these sort of.
By the way,
what did you say?
I'm going to quote you on the 1 billion per Bitcoin.
Yeah, well,
it's going to be
just, that's the idea.
Bitcoin's going to 1 billion.
That's the idea, is that fiat's going to completely collapse. This is the Bitcoin mindset. Fiat's going to completely collapse. The system as we know it's going to be destroyed, and Bitcoin is going to be what remains. But the issue at the time, also 2022, 2023, is that you also have this incredible, I wouldn't call it a failure, but it was a halt in progress for Ethereum in terms of its adoption, its use cases, and the scaling for Ethereum, and the narrative around Ethereum was it was going to be this big world computer. Everything's going to be put onto Ethereum, tokenize everything. That also didn't exactly happen. So what happened in the last bull run, in the past couple of years, basically, right? Bitcoin got insane institutional adoption. Governments are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. You have all these ETFs. You have treasury companies, dedicated public companies that their entire mission is just to hold Bitcoin. So you have like the largest, run in Bitcoin in terms of its market cap, its total value, its dominance in the market, over 60% dominant for the majority of this past cycle. But you have also a all-time low in interest in people actually using the Bitcoin blockchain, which kind of poses this existential question for Bitcoin, which is that over time, Bitcoin is supposed to be a network that's used for day-to-day transactions. The model for Bitcoin, the economic incentive model for Bitcoin, that the entire premise of Bitcoin security is built on, is that every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that gets released per block to miners gets cut in half. And unless Bitcoin just doubles every 4 years in terms of its price, Bitcoin miners are supposed to be subsidized by the fees for the transactions that happen on BTC. So, we've had a general doubling every 4 years or near that. So Bitcoin mining, the incentive model for Bitcoin still remains fairly sound. But then you have these drawdowns in times like this where there's a very limited amount of activity on Bitcoin. And Bitcoin mining, for a lot of people, especially if you set up Bitcoin mining infrastructure at 110, 120K BTC price, you're mining at a loss right now. So, it's not a huge issue at this very moment, but in over a 10-year span or a 20-year span, unless you have a ton of people making transactions on the Bitcoin network, Bitcoin has this sort of identity crisis a little bit. So just to...
And is this a conversation, and sorry to cut you off, but is this a conversation you and peers, meaning entrepreneurs on Bitcoin, are having? Because my question is, I'm not seeing a ton of people building on Bitcoin. Maybe I'm not in the right circles, but I'm not seeing that happen.
No,
there's Udi and the Wizards, where I think they're the most prominent ones, controversial probably. Other than that,
there's not a lot. I mean, okay, so Bitcoin is really hard to build on. That's one, not a problem, but because Bitcoin's made for one function, so it's difficult to build on. You had in 2023 ordinals, the ordinal protocol launched, and for the first time ever, you had high sustained demand for Bitcoin block space, and it wasn't for making peer-to-peer transactions; it was for NFTs, which is a really kind of a silly use case if we're really thinking about it. But nonetheless, it created the largest amount of fees paid to Bitcoin miners in Bitcoin history. And so that was the first time where you saw the narrative shift a little bit around Bitcoin for, there was a lot of attention and interest from people who are not just buy and hold Bitcoin people on, what if I could do more with Bitcoin? And it sort of sparked this idea that had been tried in a number of different ways, Rootstock or Stacks, et cetera, of, if you could do NFTs on Bitcoin, then what would a DeFi ecosystem look like with Bitcoin? The idea really behind DeFi, the core principle of DeFi is liquidity, right? The place where the most liquidity exists is the place where DeFi should thrive the most. So that is like the basic narrative around Bitcoin DeFi. The problem is, and has been, that building it on Bitcoin itself is an extreme challenge. So the majority of people just build a totally separate network and then build a bridge to Bitcoin and then call it a Bitcoin layer 2. So that goes for Stacks or Rootstock or any of the 100 Bitcoin layer 2s that came out since 2023. You saw basically a VC feeding frenzy to try and capture this, Bitcoin DeFi narrative. There was probably 1,000 pitch decks that went out that said there's $2 trillion of value on Bitcoin, and with my layer 2 solution, we're going to tap into it. We're going to activate all this BTC. And what happened? I was from early 2023 looking to invest in DeFi opportunities with Bitcoin, and I read a lot of these decks and had a lot of these opportunities, and I passed on every single one of them because my opinion at the time, and I told a lot of founders this, is that that's never going to happen. You're never going to build a completely separate blockchain from Bitcoin that requires Bitcoiners to leave the chain and bridge or whatever. You're not going to build a side system to Bitcoin that's going to gain any amount of adoption. The way that I looked at it, and I think the way that most Bitcoiners look at it, is if my first step to get access to DeFi or whatever opportunity is I leave Bitcoin entirely, well, why wouldn't I just use Ethereum? Ethereum has more liquidity, a better application ecosystem, and way more battle-tested protocols that there's opportunity already on Ethereum for DeFi if you have Bitcoin. You can leave Bitcoin and bridge to Ethereum, or you can wrap your Bitcoin. There are a number of different ways you can get there. The fact is, Bitcoiners don't want to leave Bitcoin. And I think that the overall size of the market of Bitcoiners at this current stage that are interested in DeFi is actually generally somewhat small. And I think that is because you don't have access to native DeFi applications. So people kind of jump the gun when we're thinking about Bitcoin DeFi as a concept, because Ethereum has so many great examples of what DeFi looks like. People immediately want to say, okay, I need lending protocols and I need perp dexes with Bitcoin. Think about all the great things you could do on Ethereum, but Bitcoin right now has no native smart contract functionality, not even the ability to issue a smart contract based asset or build an application that lives on Bitcoin. So how can you expect Bitcoiners to just jump into Aave style lending if you have not even the base level of primitive? That's like saying I want to build Amazon.com before the internet even exists, So that's really where we came from when we were thinking and designing our protocol. And I'll say that confidently that we're the only one in the entire market that has built a solution that looks like this and functions like this, because we built it fully natively to Bitcoin layer 1. What does that mean? It means that we don't have an extra gas token. You don't have to bridge your assets or leave Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form. All you're doing is making Bitcoin transactions. You're using Bitcoin in the exact same way that you use ETH on Ethereum to interact with dApps. And that is the only way, if there is a market for Bitcoin DeFi, this is the only way that we're going to see that market even start to evolve. It starts with an open source protocol that allows you to do more on Bitcoin. From there, you have to build the primitives starting from zero. You can't go to lending day one. You have to start with being able to build applications and issue assets on Bitcoin that are fully programmable. From there, you can build a DEX. You can issue stable coins. From there, you can build on top of that, right? You can have oracles come in. From there, you can have lending once there's enough liquidity and enough, you can have MakerDAO on BTC. But you can't start where Ethereum is right now on Bitcoin. You have to start like Ethereum started, where it had nothing, and you have to build it from zero, which is a much harder, it's a larger mountain to climb, and it's less immediately rewarding from a building perspective. But it's the only way we're going to get to the point of, activating any of that $2 trillion worth of value.
I think what we did is touched some nerve a little bit. Chad is definitely passionate about what he's doing and about the segment or direction that where he's building. And given what you've just said and kind of proving the point and the overall atmosphere in building in that direction. So, and what we discussed before, Tal claimed, and I'm just mocking, I love Tal very much, I'm just mocking, but he claimed that people mostly got into this industry by learning about Bitcoin. But to be fair, that was true maybe by 2020, including, right, because the COVID and the correlation, and people started to know this industry. But then obviously NFTs that you were so kind to share your opinions on. So then NFTs, and then DeFi, and then we're getting Telegram and meme coins more in 2024, I guess. And now is, as Tal said, this is Kalshi and Polymarket and betting and stuff like that. So this is what's sexy and this is what gets people going. Let me put it that way. So what it means is that Bitcoin right now, even though this industry is so new and it's still in its early stages, we've been saying that for 10 years, never mind. And so my question is, what does it feel like to build and to be a builder in a direction that is now could be called conservative, I guess? It's not that fun. It's, even though, you have great community and non-existing names, but still Bitcoin seems to be more traditional these days. So what it's like, do you feel like you're in an echo chamber, or do you feel alone? So being a founder in the Bitcoin space, what it's like today?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's definitely, there are not a lot of Bitcoin founders. There's not a lot of people building any companies or tech for Bitcoin because one, it's very technically challenging, and two, there's always sort of, I think, if you're a builder first, you're not a market participant, you're just coming as like an entrepreneur, you're going to chase the newest narrative you possibly can, right? And what does that usually lead to? It usually leads to a ton of founders kind of copycatting each other and kind of throwing a bunch of shit at the wall, and one or two really killer products kind of coming out of the fray. Usually those products have been building before the rest of the herd gets there, like Polymarket, for example, right? Like Polymarket's founder was screaming about Polymarket and betting markets, prediction markets, way before anyone was even thinking about them, which gave him that leg up. I mean, this is not a crypto exclusive thing for founders either. This is something that you can echoes
Tech
all through Silicon
well.
Valley.
Yeah.
Exactly. It echoes all through Silicon Valley across pretty much every single application vertical that has gained hype over this period of time. So yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is definitely, it's somewhat lonely, and it's also somewhat, I can see where you're coming from thinking about Bitcoin as sort of a conservative place to build. But from my perspective, the way I think about building on Bitcoin is that if we're all going to take a bet on what crypto asset is going to be around in 100 years time, what crypto asset it will we all say? We'll all say Bitcoin, right? It is the crypto asset. It still to this day has 60% market dominance. So everything we know as far as crypto goes, every blockchain, every layer one, every asset, all combined are still less than the total value in just Bitcoin alone. So if we're thinking about a place to have impact on the future, it kind of just depends on what motivates you as a builder. For us, I build from the point of trying to achieve something great. I want to be able to impact the future of innovative technology. And the only place, in my opinion, to do that is on Bitcoin, because I can be sure that if I have impact on Bitcoin, if we're able to build something that really advances Bitcoin's narrative and changes how people use or see Bitcoin for the future, this is something that can be around way past my own, lifespan, right? And that is sort of the motivation behind, building something at all. Because if I've been a trader, so I understand, if I'm in this space and I just want to extract value from the market, I don't need to build something in order to do that. I can trade and extract value in ways, that are more normal. But when it comes to building something, I think that your number one goal should be contribute something amazing, and from there, the business side of it should fall into place. If you're able to make something that kind of changes the paradigm of whatever industry you're in, the success of it will follow, right? There's been very few people who've created extremely innovative technology or have sort of created a paradigm shift in whatever industry they're in, who haven't been able to leverage that towards success.
Well, that is true. And one of the sentiments that you've mentioned, we had a guest, Philip Zentner, and he was very convinced on the fact that when you build, you should focus on one narrative and you should not chase whatever is the hottest thing right now on the market. So I guess you would feel the same way, right? That was his advice actually to the founders that were just started, to kind of stay in your lane and define what it is, stay in your lane, and do not try to pivot once there is new narrative in the market. So you would say much the same
thing. I mean, you have to have conviction about what you're doing. I think that one of my strengths as a trader has been historically identifying narratives and trying to sort of skate where the puck is going, to use a hockey analogy. Find the narrative before other people do, and then you have edge in the market. And I think the same thing goes for, and you have to have conviction in that as well, because I've seen over the time, just even on Bitcoin alone, right? My conviction was first investing, then obviously next is building programmability and Bitcoin DeFi specifically. Over the course of the past 3 years that we've been building, there have been a ton of new narratives that have emerged on Bitcoin. One would be DApps, right? DApps a lot of them have spectacularly failed. Another one would be Bitcoin layer 2s as a viable solution. I personally was very bearish on them. The market proved me right. There hasn't been a successful Bitcoin layer 2, and the majority of them that have launched over the course of the past couple of years have utterly failed. And so if we decided to pivot towards that direction at any point in time, even within sort of the narrative scope that we were having, if we were to lose conviction in our original protocol design, our original sort of in our original narrative that we were trying to create, we would have failed spectacularly, just like the majority of people who, were coming up and then failing during that period of time. And then what, at the end of the day, what emerges from that is, if you've built something that, can have that sort of impact, if you're able to have conviction in your the narrative that you yourself have created, then you build a product that you think does, it doesn't matter what time in the market it is. If it's something that is innovative and can really have a lot of impact, it'll speak for itself.
What does OPNet look like? The team? Do you have many people? Do you have an office? Are you working from different parts of the world? So talk to us about that.
Yeah, we are a team of around 20 people. We have no office. We have a hacker house in Abu Dhabi that we have about half the team lives and works out of. So that's sort of our office. It's our base of operations. We live together. We work together. It's very much startup life. And then we have
What do you mean live together?
Yeah. Like literally in the same building?
Yeah. We have a villa here in Abu Dhabi. It's 9 bedrooms, and we have 9 people here. And we all work on OpNet every single day.
That's conviction.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I mean, it's important. I think that if you're doing something that you believe in, then you have to believe in it all the way, and you have to go all the way with it. I'm not a fan of going halfway into things, and I am no stranger to taking risks in my own life and also trading and just in general. I mean, if I have a bet, I'm going to make sure that I stick to it. It doesn't mean you have to blindly just, be attached to your bags or whatever if you're thinking about trading. Like hitting the sell button is always like at least from a trading perspective, it's a skill to develop for sure, but it's important to have conviction in what you're doing. So we have about half our team. We all live together. We work together every single day.
All right. So around 10 people. Is that correct? We're at 10 people.
Yeah, that are here. And then we have some of our dev core is based in Canada, and they have their own sort of sub community there. Just
to recap, you have 10 people kind of locked in any way you take it in one house. Chad, please wink if you're being held against your will. Do you need help?
No. If anything, some of my guys might be being held against their will.
That's my point. Are you the one taking hostages?
I might be the one holding them against their will.
All right. Okay. I'll double check with your team. All right. No, but 2 follow-ups. Do you find this very efficient? As I'm guessing yes, but what do you do when you get tired of people? Because that's what you do. You get tired of people, of their, of being around, of their habits, of their making the bet or not making the bet, or drinking or sipping very loudly. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Abu Dhabi is really conducive to a productive environment. Like the place that we have is pretty big. Everyone does have their own personal space. There's a lot of different co-working areas that we have, and we made sure that
space. Are they allowed to do anything else besides working?
Yeah, well, I mean, okay. Let's draw a parallel to Silicon Valley, right? A lot of the most successful Silicon Valley startups did this exact thing, right? Even if you think about Silicon Valley, the TV show, right? They have a house and they all live together and they all work on the thing together, and they did that in the show because that's what Facebook did. That's what a lot of the most famous Silicon Valley startups did. And the reason why is because, when you're a startup, you're not operating a typical company. This is not office hours. There's not 9 to 5. It's a 24/7 job. And everybody who is working on this thing, it's not like, oh, I have a boss, right? It's everyone feels like they have collective ownership, and everyone has an equal amount of conviction because we're building something together. And that is where some of the strongest teams are formed. And that's, Silicon Valley itself, if you've ever been, is very boring in terms of what you can do there. And that is actually, it's close to San Francisco. It's close to places where you can have fun, but itself is very, very, it's like typical suburbia. So it is a place where people lock in, they build stuff together. They all kind of have collective mind share.
I feel like that should be our pitch. Unrelated to Bitcoin, we're locked in physically and
absolutely 100%. I mean, again, and it's look, if you're working for a company and you show up to an office and you clock in and you clock out, you don't feel like you have any ownership over something. Even if you have like stock options or whatever, you don't really care. You're working a job. If you're creating something together collectively, then everyone feels like they have a piece of their soul that they've put into the company, and everyone is a crucial piece of the team. And yeah, living together, of course, like when you're sharing space with people, there are always challenges. But I think that when you're unified under a collective goal, it makes challenges like that much easier to get over.
I think Tal needs help because he's not cut up on the modern content and culture. So Silicon Valley is something that Chad mentioned. It's a very interesting TV series about what it's actually like to, first of all, work for a corporation like, let's say, Google or Hulu. In that sense, I think that was called Hulu. I don't remember, but I really love that.
In
See,
the
the
show, yeah,
thing
who he is
yeah, the thing is that Tal just recently finished Prison Break, so he's not cut up. He's not cut up yet. So the Silicon Valley is a very popular TV series about the Silicon
I'll
Valley.
get to that in, I think, in 5, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get there.
You for sure have seen memes. It's like it is a
no
quintessential.
memes. Yes,
It's a quintessential show.
Yeah, no, definitely the pre-revenue. I've
Yeah,
seen small
you know.
bits of the thing. But yeah, now we're watching Homeland. I feel like in a few years we'll.
I mean, Homeland is a great TV series, but it's also like very old. But it's actually very up to date. Politically, it's very interesting to watch it right now in this.
I mean, listen, there was like from the late 90s through the mid aughts, like that was a kind of a golden age for television. You had The Wire, you have Sopranos, you have Breaking Bad. Like these are some of the best TV that's ever been created.
The best ones.
So
I would love to go back to attention. I think we met at Singapore on the plane to Token. I would love to talk about that because I feel like right now everyone's in a measuring contest who goes to more conferences, who takes more pictures next to more booth. I feel like on the one hand, it's the biggest FOMO someone working in crypto is experiencing, but on the other hand, it also going to too many conferences. I feel finding that sweet spot is something most people, again, from what I feel like most people fail finding the sweet spot between going to to a good amount of conferences and actually working. Would like to hear your opinion on how do you guys decide on how, what, where?
There's a few crucial conferences. I think yeah, Token in Singapore, Token in Dubai. We try to hit at least one conference in Hong Kong per year. Aside from that, I think the ROI for different individuals in going to conferences, it can vary significantly. If you're I mean, obviously I'm based in the UAE, so we do get a lot of conferences here, which is very, very advantageous. But the ROI for going out and traveling. So as far as, if you're a startup, for example, right? Why are you going to a conference is the first question you should ask. Do you think that you can meet venture capital? Do you think that you're going to gain connections? Like, what are your set goals for going to a conference, and what are you trying to achieve is always something that we think about before we actually make a plan to go. Are there partners or people who you're talking with already who are going to be there that you can get some FaceTime with? This is not an industry that is very centralized in one location. If you're thinking about finance as a broad topic, you have New York, you have London, you have Hong Kong. There are like global hubs where if you're in this industry, you're likely there. So you have a lot of chances to meet everyone who you need to work with. You don't need to particularly go globetrotting to meet most of the people that you do business with actively. The difference between crypto is that it's decentralized. There is not a 1 or 2 or 5 singular hubs for where the majority of crypto activity is. Crypto companies are based all over the place, and a lot of them work completely remote. So it's kind of a unique opportunity in the industry to meet people and have these connections and connect with your partners or people who you're talking with. But you have to gauge each conference. I generally don't even attend the main conferences when I go to any crypto conferences. I either schedule all my meetings around the conference, stay nearby or at wherever venue the conference is, and there's everyone who's in the industry knows this, but the side events are really where, if you can develop a good pipeline for getting invited or knowing where good side events are, that is where the majority of value, I think, can be created at crypto conferences. And I generally think, unless you are an overfunded project, that the ROI on getting a booth and meeting conference attendees is fairly limited, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like something that we personally experienced in in Token on Singapore is hotels. We picked by chance the best one every time we went to get breakfast. We met founders from different sizes of companies. Was great for us, and yeah, side events were amazing. But I feel like you can get very easily overwhelmed with the sheer amount of them. It's endless.
You have to be able to know what side events are what. It's so crucial, and a lot of it is just experience, and some of it is just luck. It's something that you have to learn over time. I mean, we've been actively going to conferences from with a goal, aside from before that, because there's a huge swath of people who go to these conferences who are just participants in the market who want to go check out a conference and meet other people who are trading and stuff. And that's what we used to do, going to Bitcoin Miami or NFT NYC or whatever. We were just going because we were in this market and we want to meet other people and we want to fuck around, and me and my buddies want to meet up. That is a decent amount of people who are attending the actual main conference. So yeah, I mean, the connections that you can make at conferences, it can be game changing depending on what your goal is, but you have to be able to vet events for sure, or else you'll end up at some real stinkers.
So, two follow-ups from that, maybe three. First of all, choose your hotel wisely. Second of all, be aware of Tal. He's stalking people on their stalking them when they're having a meal or coffee. Yeah, so be careful. Yes, and the third follow-up is actually a question: are you going anywhere this year? You're not in Denver right now, right?
No, not in Denver this year. Last time I went to Denver was 2024, and it wasn't bad. There was a lot of buzz around the ordinal world at the time, and a lot of participants in the ordinal market were people who came from Ethereum. So it was there was a home for me, and there was I knew people who were going, and I knew that there was going to be big meetups, there were big side events and stuff that I knew I was going to go to. So it made sense to go, but yeah, not Denver this year. I'll be at Token 2049 in Dubai for sure. That's one of the best conferences, mostly because of the side events there are usually, I mean, really, really incredible. Aside from that, I mean, every year there's Bitcoin Mina in Abu Dhabi, and there's Abu Dhabi Finance Week, which is becoming increasingly more important, I think, to the industry as the industry starts to be more institutionalized, Bitcoin even as well. Typical financial conferences. I mean, the profile, I was just at Consensus in Hong Kong, and I would say there were more institutional people at that conference than I'd ever seen at any Consensus ever. It was a lot of bankers and a lot of folks from institutions. There was not many founders and not as many kind of average market participants. It was a lot of people trying to do business, which again, it can be really, really good, but it does also just kind of show where the industry has shifted, where, crypto has been generally adopted by the global financial world. It's still in an early stage, but there's a lot of people who are trying to get into that game.
And I think it says a lot about as you mentioned, the industry sentiment right now, because we hear more and more corporations coming and kind of getting into Bitcoin. I'm not going to say conventional or traditional part. I'm going to say Bitcoin is the father of the industry. I hope that pleases you, right? So
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's why they're doing business. It's good, but it's a little bit different from the rest of the crypto gang. Let me put it that way. I have a very practical question, and this is the coming out part, Tal, that I promised. So, Chad, your legal name is not the same, right? How do you get a
Yeah.
ticket? Because, and this is what I'm asking. I've always had to get a press pass because I've always been a part of this or that media organization. And my name technically is a little bit different. It's not fully different from my legal name, but it has been for 9 years. I've been in the industry since my very first project in crypto because my surname is Ukrainian. Uh, they've asked me to, first of all, change my surname into an American sounding surname. And then every single company after that just kind of went along with it. Well, first of all, there was this, we don't want to associate anybody with Russian speaking community. And second, this is for your own safety. So you could report and the government could not find, any government could not find you. So, okay, I ate that up. I was very young. But then see, even Token 2049 is one of the strictest ever in terms of your legal name on your ticket. So how do you get, because I have to provide all of my legal documents and my LinkedIn to prove that the person on my LinkedIn is me. So that's the first question. How do you get there? Do you use your uh,
Yeah,
Twitter name?
I use my normal name. Yeah, I use my normal name. I'll yeah, I usually, if I'm at conferences, if I'm doing anything in person, I'm usually just using my regular name.
Are you are you one of those guys who turn over your badge and writes down your
No,
Twitter handle? No, all right. Whew, all
no,
right.
no,
And
no.
so the
It
second
it it
question,
it sometimes causes confusion because a lot of times people will meet me as Samuel and then they'll connect
yeah,
on Telegram with me as Chad, and then it's like,
yeah.
wait, what's going on? But it's also, I
And
mean, look,
here's
it's not atypical for, you know, whether it's KOLs or traders or even founders. Like there's a lot of like Mega ETH bread guy, right? That's the one of the founders of Mega ETH. Yeah, I mean, like his name is out there for sure, but he's just it's not it's not something that is too strange in the industry.
mhm.
I think it goes back to Satoshi Nakamoto being anonymous, as kind of sets this sort of industry standard for, you know, you can have a sort of an alternate name or an alternate ego, and that it's
And
generally
people
more
don't want to
accepted.
get the rent attacks. At the end of the day, I feel like that's
Yeah, I mean, there's
also part of that.
protecting identity. I think is part of it. I think, I mean, there are some founders who are intentionally fully anonymous for a number of reasons. Either one, they're developing something that is super disruptive and they're afraid of being attacked by the government or by individuals, which is a real threat. The second would be they, you know, their protocol fails or something, and then their people are chasing them down forever, which is like also like a total disaster. So, you know, look, there have been founders of very prominent protocols that were very innovative who ended up getting mysteriously killed or kidnapped or worse. So there's a lot of danger even still to this day, even as the industry starts getting more institutionalized. Building decentralized technology is still it's a dangerous thing still. Obviously, the American government has kind of accepted it under this administration, which is very, it's been very helpful for the industry. But there's no telling within 5 years or 10 years if a less friendly administration comes into power within the United States, and starts shifting global sentiment around building decentralized technology. I mean, look, it is a little bit overblown, the risk that decentralized tech poses to the existing system at this very stage. But the powers that be want to stay in power and don't want anyone disrupting them. So it is still a very real threat, I think, to be, you know, fully doxxed at every single stage. You know, I think it's important for trust. If you're building something that's legitimate, it's important for trust that people have access to who you are and know your name. But I do also think that exposing yourself to undue risk, especially early on, or if you're building something that is potentially disruptive, it's a real threat.
I did have a follow up on the trust thing, but you covered that, so yeah, there you go. I think it's a pretty open question as to whether be fully anonymous or being fully transparent. What's worse for your brand? You know what I mean? Because it can get in different ways. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. But Tal, do you have any follow ups?
Yes, it's not a follow up. It's a genuine
All right.
question. I feel like one of the biggest pain points from on our end, on people around us, is hiring. I feel like it's either you're going to hire someone who's very good at, I don't know, for a specific role, could be social media, could be DevRel, could be different things, but they're not very acquainted with crypto, Bitcoin specifically, or
Yeah.
crypto as a whole. Or if you find someone in that Venn diagram of also very good at what they do and also acquainted very much with the industry, I feel like these either don't exist or paychecks are, for startups, insane. I'd like to hear your take on that. Would you rather hire someone and handhold them for a process, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say personally, we've had a really unique hiring process. Most of our hires have been extremely organic and just been through our own network. I think we've been really, really lucky that the our mission is uh, it has a deeper mission than, hey, launch a token and this is what we're doing. We don't have a token for our protocol. We're building something that we see as really, really disruptive and can be really, really innovative. And if we have a lot of success, it can kind of, like, in a lot of ways, is like planting our flag on the moon. So because that is our ethos from our company standpoint and who we are as builders, that has we've been really lucky, I feel like, to attract a lot of builders who have a similar sort of mindset. Most of our developers have been with us for a long time, and the way that we've scaled our development team has been usually through our network or their own networks, because all developers know other developers. And when your friend is building something super cool that you're super interested in from an academic standpoint, and you're a developer, I see there's two types of developers in my eyes. There is mercenary developers, guys who, hey, I learned how to code and I just want a tech job, and they're there for a paycheck and they don't really care about what they're doing. They're going to take a job at whoever's going to pay me money. I'll work there, whatever. And the quality of work that you'll get from some of these guys, some have great work ethic and some will be great, and some are just going to be subpar. The other type of developer, and this is the developer that is has been attracted to us, and that is, I think, the rare form, is the artistic developer, the developer who sees their work as art and cares more about the impact of what they're building than the amount they're being compensated for it. Because if you think about a musician, right, to relate to something that I love to play music. So there also are different types of musicians. There's a type of musician that will just, hey, I have talent, I'll have someone write my song and I want to be a pop star, right? There's no artistic integrity there. They just want success. You have the artist that is just like, I'm just going to be in a cover band, I'm going to play at weddings, I'm going to get paid this, I'm going to make a living off of this. And then you have the other segment, which is, I want to create a song that impacts millions of people. I want to create art that
Sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
I,
Sorry.
I want to create music that it has a huge lasting impact. Like, my legacy is my work. And so that is, I think, it's a smaller amount of developers, but they exist. They're all over the place. These are the guys who made every really innovative protocol. Guys like Satoshi Nakamoto didn't expect the success of Bitcoin when they made it. They made it because they wanted to make something amazing. Even Vitalik Buterin and all the guys around Ethereum, there was no promise for success when they first launched. They just wanted to create something that was new and innovative and spoke to them. And it's developers like that who aspire to be like these sort of these Mount Rushmore pillars of the industry, and maybe want to put their name up on that same sort of tier, those are the types of people who are attractive to me, and that have been, we've been really lucky to kind of, be in the same circles as, and those are the people, that's the criteria of developer that we look for.
I'm gonna step on something very dangerous here, but the Kendrick Lamars of the industry, or are you a Drake fan? No, the Kendrick Lamars, the Beyoncés of the. Okay, no, that was a little bit of a minute
Yeah.
of
I mean, okay,
taste.
like even at that really high level, there are a few like true artists who are at that super high level. You definitely named a couple of them, your Taylor Swifts or whatever, but even it does kind of the analogy gets a little bit muddled, because there's once you've made it, right, your goal is to continue your success or maintain your success more than it is to create something amazing. That's why typically startup founders make one, maybe two really great things, and they lose the sort of flame, or they lose their touch to some degree, because it's very difficult to continue to innovate once you've already hit some sort of level of success, right? It's in a lot of ways, it's like capturing lightning in a bottle, to be so dedicated to something and to innovate in the way that some people are able to. And most people, I think, who attain that level of success couldn't go back and repeat it, right? It is something that sort of just happens through hard work and determination. So yeah, that's, it's not a one-to-one analogy, but it's pretty close.
It is pretty close. And to kind of sum it up, I think one of the most important things to actually that left to ask. First of all, are you trying to tell us that you're a Taylor Swift fan? Is that what you're saying? Because you said Taylor Swift of the industry. I was giving you Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, but you said Taylor Swift.
I think that she has a really good track record and has done a really good job of like commercializing while also staying fairly true
Building an
to.
empire, actually.
I
Yeah,
love how
for
this
sure.
answer is genuine and how you locked into the answer
Yeah.
of.
But she stayed fairly true to her artistic roots. I mean, I think, like, again, once you hit a certain level of artistry, it can be very difficult to not get swept up by the industry around you, and also, like, as you age, it becomes more difficult to write like compelling music. The same thing, I think, doesn't exactly apply for like being a developer, but I am not a developer myself, so I can't say one to one exactly whether the parallel is there. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good examples within popular music, but I do think, I mean, totally side take, but I do think that we've lost like a bit of the. There's not as many amazing artists as there used to be because the music industry has become so commercialized. But that's,
Thank you for
totally
saying
different
that.
conversation.
Thank you. And the last question left: where do I get a hat like that? Is it your?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is our custom hat. You have to
Can
find
I
us
get
at a
one
conference.
if I'm in Dubai very soon? Can I get one?
Oh yeah, for sure. No problem. We have literally boxes and boxes of them here at our house.
Tal, did you hear that? Boxes and boxes. I can get you one.
Yeah, we have a lot of them.
Honestly, I love the fact that the logo is Bitcoin and not OPNet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what we are, right? We are
Yeah.
Bitcoin. We're just trying to be able to do more
Yeah.
with Bitcoin. Like, from a user perspective, from a developer perspective, you're not like interacting with OPNet. We're just open source platform that allows you to do more with Bitcoin. You can think of it like
Amazing.
TCP/IP or HTTPS for the internet, right? This is
No one cares
it's
about
a
HTTPS. No one cares.
but it is
They
what
all care about
it
about the
will
value of it. Sorry.
it will because there is no direct value to these protocols. All the value that the protocols create trickle down to the applications that build with it. And that is the fundamental principle of our thesis around Bitcoin, which is the fat app thesis, which says that Bitcoin it's already the fattest protocol. So if you're going to build something that allows you to tap into that value, whatever that is, can't have value itself, because all the value should be accruing to applications or assets that are built within the Bitcoin network. That is sort of that was the first principle of our design when we were thinking about, well, how would you build something that brings more functionality to BTC as an asset.
On
To
that
to
beautiful,
go all the way back into a circle.
yeah, on that note, thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom. And good luck building together with your team. Hopefully, not getting exhausted being together. But no, seriously, thank you so much for your time and good luck with OP Net and
Thank you.
everything else that you're planning to do. Tal, would you like to add something?
I have a bunch of other questions. I'll probably DM you afterwards.
Uh,
No, no, I'm joking.
I'm
Thank you very
sorry,
much. I really enjoyed this.
stalking you too, right? That's what. Okay, yeah.
I will be
It's no
doing that
problem,
as well.
man. It's no
All
problem,
right.
dude. Tal called me over. We were at a random side event. He called me over and he was like, "I saw you on the plane," and we just sat down and had like a 40-minute conversation. So, I mean,
Tell
you know,
the screen.
he's a
You
friendly
know
guy.
that.
He's not a stalker. He's a friendly guy.
Yeah, sure.
A friendly stalker. Someone.
Yeah,
someone actually
maybe,
like
maybe a
a
friendly
friend?
stalker.
Yeah.
Friendly stalker is
And he
is
clocked me as Jewish immediately, which I was like, "Oh my god, that's crazy."
It is what it is. It is what
That's
it
right.
is. I
That's
could
right.
be more direct. Hey, I feel like it could come out.
Well, I mean,
as-
I have like full sleeves of tattoos, so sometimes I feel like I
Which-
can pass as like not Jewish, but I mean
Spidey
I'm about
senses are.
I'm about as Jewish as they come.
all right.
I was bar
So,
mitzvahed, you know.
It is what it is.
all right. So I guess that was the end of me saying goodbye and good luck.